Shouldn't you be helping more around the house? If this is the kind of spouse you're going to be, maybe you should just leave, my mother-in-law snapped, her words sharp and gaze piercing. I was taken aback by her harsh tone. Beside her, my sister-in-law added dismissively, you always look exhausted but never seem to get anything done. Feeling overwhelmed, I turned to my husband, Matthew, hoping for some support. This is too much, don't you think? Your mom and sister are being really harsh, I said, trying to find understanding in his eyes. His response only deepened my distress. I agree with them, he said bluntly, I'm swamped with work, and it's becoming a problem that you're not helping more at home. Things are going well with the new part-time worker, and frankly, you're just slowing us down. Maybe you should find somewhere else to stay. Stunned by Matthew's words, I looked around at the three of them, feeling the weight of their judgment press down on me. Anger rushed through me, but I took a deep breath, calmed myself, and replied, I need some time to think. My name is Lori, and I'm 35 years old. I've always balanced both my job and household duties. It's common for women to work after marriage, and I love my job. I've worked hard to excel in the company I joined right after college, but lately, everything feels like it's falling apart. One morning, as I was getting ready for work, Matthew came to me looking concerned. Lori, can you take care of this? He asked, handing me a file stuffed with receipts and bills. You should get the cafe's finances in order. I smiled, trying to keep the mood light. Sorry, I'm not good with that stuff, I replied. I met Matthew while he worked part-time at a cafe I often visited. After a few conversations, we started dating, eventually talking about marriage. Now, he owns the cafe, but despite his business skills, he struggles with the paperwork and often asks me to handle it. As I sighed, my mother-in-law added, Lori, I'm craving Chinese food tonight. Could you rinse the rice well? Also, Denise and the kids are coming this weekend, so we need to plan their meals. Sure, I understand. I nodded quickly, agreeing to her request before hurrying out the door, eager to escape the pressure mounting at home. I had hoped that moving in with Matthew would bring a new chapter in our lives together, but things had only gotten more complicated. Matthew soon suggested, my mom seems lonely living by herself. Why don't we move in together into our big house? So, here I am, living with his mother. To put it gently, she's not exactly skilled in maintaining a household. After my father-in-law passed, my mother-in-law started living off his pension, spending most of it on dining out or ordering takeout, leaving the domestic duties to me. Matthew, holding traditional views, seemed to think housework was solely my responsibility, and I ended up managing everything. To make things worse, Matthew's sister, Denise, often dropped by with her kids, further expanding my list of tasks. Weekends, which I had hoped would offer some respite, became chaotic as I entertained her children and cooked meals for the family. Then one day, Denise dropped a bombshell, Lori, I'm getting divorced, and I'll be moving back here with the kids next month. I was stunned, momentarily speechless. Really? Do you have something to say? She prodded. I managed to reply, it must have been tough. When are you moving? I want to move as soon as possible, she answered. Though surprised by the news of Denise and her kids moving in, I harbored hope that maybe her presence would make the household chores more manageable. We had a decent relationship, and I thought her moving in might bring us closer, maybe even encourage her to pitch in. Reality quickly set in differently. Denise, it seemed, was as averse to housework as her mother. She spent her days lounging on the sofa, often with a snack in hand, engrossed in TV. I couldn't help but wonder if her resistance to domestic duties had contributed to her marriage falling apart. Now, with the added task of preparing extra meals for her kids and packing lunches for kindergarten, my workload grew even heavier. My hopes for help from Denise were quickly dashed, and I found myself with even less free time. At my job, the workload ramped up significantly. I started early, often worked overtime, and returned home drained, only to be greeted by a cluttered, barely walkable living space. The mess intensified my exhaustion. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law never missed a chance to question me. Is dinner ready yet? Or why are you home so late? Became their daily refrain, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of their judgment on my shoulders. The moment I step inside after a long day, the pressure starts to mount. Lori, there's a mountain of laundry waiting. Don't use your busyness as an excuse to slack off. My mother-in-law chided sharply. Inside, I'm screaming. I'm trying my best, but I hold my tongue. Before I can even respond, my sister-in-law chimes in, pushing further. Standing up to your mother-in-law is bold, Lori, but for the kids' sake, try harder to make homemade meals. Her words feel like a slap. Exhausted, I retort, though my voice is weary. If you have so much free time, why don't you help out with the chores once in a while? I've even overheard Matthew's sister joking. Haha, since Matthew owns a store, Lori doesn't need to work, right? Maybe she should try harder at home. Their words stack up, suffocating me under the weight of expectations, as if I should do even more. One night, at my breaking point, I decided it was time to speak up to Matthew. I've been incredibly busy lately, and neither your mother nor your sister is helping with the chores. It's really hard, I said, hoping for some understanding. Matthew's reaction was sharp. Lori, you're not speaking ill of our family, are you? He asked, his tone hardening. I steadied myself and explained, that's not my intention, but it's challenging to handle everything on my own. If you could help out occasionally, it would make things easier for me. He responded dismissively, I'm busy managing the store. It's not like a regular job. Housework is the wife's responsibility, right? Disappointed by his lack of support, I sat alone afterward, feeling a mixture of frustration and helplessness. Then, a spark of determination ignited within me. I'm not going to let this be the way it is, I thought. With a small but resolute fist pump, I grabbed my phone, opened my favorite online shopping app, and started adding essential items to my cart. By the time I finished my purchases, I felt a small victory, an act of control amidst the chaos. That night, I went to bed with a sense of accomplishment, ready to face whatever came next. A few days later, my eagerly awaited delivery arrived, transforming my routine. It included a state-of-the-art washing machine, a robotic vacuum that could navigate every corner of our home, and a rice cooker that promised perfect rice with minimal effort. Each item felt like a lifeline, offering a little relief and making daily life just a bit easier. As I set up the new washing machine, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law walked in, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. Wow, Lori, you got such a fancy washing machine. The old one still worked, didn't it? My mother-in-law asked, her tone laced with skepticism. I met her gaze with a calm smile, unbothered by her judgment. As I continued setting up the new appliance, it felt like a small, silent victory over the pressures I'd been facing. I calmly replied, the old one was getting slow, and this new one can do the laundry much faster. Their attention quickly shifted to the robotic vacuum and the new kitchen gadgets I'd also upgraded. I've updated these, too, I said, showing them with a hint of pride. These appliances, everything from the cleaning robot to the convenient cooking gadgets, were now my allies in managing the household more efficiently. Lori, can we talk for a moment? My mother-in-law's voice had a sharp edge as she beckoned me into another room. I followed, sensing a confrontation was coming. Once we sat down, the tension between us was palpable. Why did you buy so many things? She asked, her tone cold. Do you really need all these new appliances, or is it just to make your life easier? I tried to remain composed. I thought it would help things run smoother around the house, I explained, choosing my words carefully, but I could feel the simmering discontent. My mother-in-law wasn't satisfied with my response. Aren't we relying too much on machines? She countered. My sister-in-law, standing by, waved her hand dismissively, signaling her agreement. Despite their resistance, I held my ground. The appliances we had were outdated, Matthew's busy with his store, and I thought being more efficient at home would help everyone. Matthew nodded, his expression neutral. Maybe we should be more frugal, he suggested. His voice carried a tone of subtle reproach, and my frustration bubbled up. Maybe you're right, I conceded quietly, but inside, I was fuming. The conversation had quickly escalated. Are you even considering our household needs? My mother-in-law's voice grew sharper. I stammered, caught off guard. I am, but I'm just really exhausted, I admitted, feeling cornered. That's enough, my mother-in-law snapped, her voice filled with disbelief. I can't believe you're our daughter-in-law. My sister-in-law added, her expression dripping with disdain. I'll watch over Matthew. We don't need someone like you here. I looked to Matthew, hoping for some support, but instead, I received a cold, dismissive response. I understand what Mom and Sis are saying, he said, his words trailing off into uncomfortable silence. A chill lingered in the air as they left the room, and I sat there, the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. Despite their harsh words, my resolve only grew stronger. The appliances I had bought were necessary, not just for managing the household, but for my sanity. When I looked at Matthew, my heart sank. He gave me a cold smile and said, I have my store, so I decide how to spend my money, but being with someone who spends without thinking might be too hard for me. His words stung, but I kept my composure, silently counting to 12 before responding. He continued, a cruel edge in his voice. Also, I've noticed things have been going well with the new part-time girl at the store. She's more attractive than you are now. Maybe it's time for you to find a new place to live. A wave of anger surged within me, but I held it back. I took a deep breath, then calmly said, all right, I'll look for a new home. Finally, you understand, he replied smugly. I'll feel much better without you around. That night, Matthew signed the divorce papers, and I left, carrying nothing but the essentials and the divorce papers in hand. No one tried to stop me, leaving me to wonder if they had ever really cared about me at all. After finalizing the divorce at the city office, I found a stylish apartment and started fresh. Around the same time, an unexpected opportunity came my way, a promotion to section manager, a role I had previously put off due to my family situation. I embraced this new role with vigor, dedicating myself to my work and feeling a renewed sense of purpose. One busy day, my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was my former mother-in-law. Thinking we had nothing to do with each other anymore, I dismissed the call without checking the message. My new life had begun, and I wasn't looking back. A year passed, and one relaxing weekend, as I enjoyed my favorite music, my phone rang again. To my surprise, it was my former mother-in-law. I couldn't help but wonder what she wanted after all this time. I answered the phone. Hello, is something wrong? Lori, I finally got through. I didn't think you'd answer after so many calls, my former mother-in-law said, her voice wavering with uncertainty. Well, it's been a while. What's going on? I asked, keeping my tone neutral but cautious. She hesitated, clearly unsure of how to proceed, before asking, how's your new life? I gave a cheerful reply, masking any traces of tension. It's great, I love my new apartment, and work is going smoothly. I even got a promotion, and I'm really enjoying the freedom. That's good, she said. Lori, can you come back home? I was taken aback. Why? We're struggling financially, she admitted, prompting me to think to myself that I had suspected as much. I responded cautiously. Matthew's cafe only makes about $2,000 a month, right? If no one else in the family works, things could be tough. You know about that? She asked, surprised. Yes, I replied. I handled all the accounting. Matthew pretended his business was thriving, but he was completely oblivious to the real financial situation. She seemed stunned. You knew all this and didn't tell us? We had no idea you were doing so well in such a big company or that you were contributing so much to the household expenses. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Yes, I contributed more than $5,000 a month. That's how you all managed after I left. The truth was that I had been covering the gaps in Matthew's business losses, which he had never acknowledged. And now, it seemed, reality had hit them hard. Lori, please come back, my former mother-in-law pleaded again. I sighed and asked, how's the cafe doing now? She sighed heavily, we might have to close soon. The part-time workers keep quitting. I smirked inwardly. It's hard to keep it going with his management style, isn't it? His little bit of pride doesn't help. Not doing proper work, I mean, how many women out there would support a guy like that? There was a long pause before she weakly responded. I never realized housework could be this hard. With 3 adults in the house, how can it be this chaotic? What are Matthew and your daughter doing? I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. As for Matthew, she continued, his staff has been quitting, and sales have dropped. When he found out, he just became downcast and has been lazing around at home. He used to spend money from the store without any restraint, and Denise doesn't do anything around the house. She even gets her allowance from me. She sounded defeated. Living on just my pension for the 3 of us is really hard. I replied, my voice tinged with sarcasm. Denise once told me I was unnecessary because she was there. Please, Lori, my former mother-in-law begged, we're really in trouble. Living on just my pension is tough. I responded firmly, I have no intention of going back to that house. It must be hard living with all that baggage. She seemed lost for words. I almost felt sorry for her, but as I was about to hang up, she seemed eager to say something more. Lori, I'm really sorry, can you reconsider? Her voice was drained with exhaustion. I paused, wondering if we could ever spend time together with smiles again. Was it really that hard without me? I asked, a mix of surprise and calmness in my tone. After a short pause, she sighed and shared more distressing news. Yes, there's an issue with the property tax. We might have to let go of the house. The call ended with a heavy silence. I reflected on the complex dynamics of the family I had left behind and the new life I had embraced. I see, I said, though I didn't want to be involved anymore. You'll have to figure out what to do with your family. I hung up and quickly set up my phone to block any more calls from her. Sitting in my room, holding my favorite mug filled with aromatic coffee, I savored my solitude, gazing out at the scenery. A spontaneous smile crossed my face. A few months later, as I passed by the cafe where Matthew used to work, I noticed it was now quiet and empty. The lively place I once knew seemed a distant memory, and I felt a twinge of nostalgia. It seemed they had closed the shop. While wandering around the old town, I got curious about what had become of my former in-laws' house. To my surprise, I saw a sold sign outside. By chance, I bumped into an old neighbor who filled me in. They had quickly sold their house and moved into a small apartment nearby. The new place was filled with loud arguments, and there was even talk about the smell of garbage, becoming a bit of local gossip. It sounded like things were tough for them, but as I looked at the old house, I wondered why they hadn't tried harder. A lot had happened since then, but I was living each day to the fullest. Recently, a handsome guy from my workplace had confessed his admiration for my hardworking nature. Now, we were enjoying dates, and I was excited about what the future held. If I ever get married again, I want it to be for real happiness. Thinking about all this, I felt a surge of excitement for the future.